Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, my name is Allie and today is my 2024 book wrap-up video. So I was kind of thinking about skipping filming today because definitely like giving winter with the lighting and everything, and it was kind of a busy day with company and I just didn't get around to it earlier. So I hope you guys don't mind the mood lighting with just having warm tone lights around my house. But this is literally just a stats video. I'm going to take you guys along for my journey of 2024 readings. I read these 160 books in 2024. And now it's time to talk about them and break down all of the stats for my overall year. I had made a video earlier in 2024. I think it was like the first quarter, and while I would love to be more organized and put together and be able to bring you guys quarterly stats, I am just shaking my head that that's just not gonna happen. I think I have it in me to do like my one time a year video, and even then it's like already mid-January, so you get it when you get it. But I do have some different graphs to throw up and show you guys for my year of books, and also looking at GoodReads and Story Graph and all of that to give you guys my detailed exploration of my books in 2024. I also am going to circle back to goals I set for myself in this exact video 1 year ago. And see how many of my goals I checked off this past year that I had planned. And now is the time to then set my goals for this year so that I can once again next year do the same exact thing. According to GoodReads, I read 160 books. That's 41,845 pages. Now, I do think if I switch over to my story graph, my pages are slightly different. Story Graph says it's 41,945. I know that a lot of this has to do with the difference from like ebooks and stuff like that, and I don't really know why on either one of these apps it's like formatted to where like some of them are like ebook style. I get it if it's like an ebook exclusive, but like there's books that I've read that I read physically or with an audiobook and not an ebook, and it's confusing. It messes me all up, but I read somewhere between those numbers. My shortest book of the year came in at 5 pages, and that is, it looks like an Edgar Allan Poe, because that is his photo right there. Oh, A Tale of Jerusalem, and it was probably one of my worst reads of the year. My longest book was Nosferatu by Joe Hill at 692 pages. The average book length was 261 pages, which is wild in comparison to last year, which I want to say last year was still like around 320-ish. So it wasn't like a huge jump, but I feel like it was more average there, where you could definitely tell I read a lot more shorter books. I think that was my Edgar Allan Poe reads, and some other just novellas that I really got into this past year. My most shelved book, are we shocked, is A Court of Mist and Fury with over 4 billion shelves. And my least was The Treadon. Is that how you say that? I don't know, but it's the Edgar Allan Poe 3 short stories in one with Berenice, Morella, and Ligeia with less than 200 shelves. This is mind-blowing to me that my average rating was 4 stars. I actually had a really, really good reading year. I had more 4 and 5 stars put together, maybe even by themselves, than 3 stars and 2 stars. Like, it was just a great year for me overall. Highest rated on GoodReads is the same, A Court of Mist and Fury. And this was definitely one of the years where I completely stopped writing book reviews. So although it says my first review of the year was Stephen King, Carrie, which was much later on in my year, I kind of just circled back to just let the review know that like I did a reread of it. This is an overlay of all the books I read this year. You can see some of the 5 stars popping out. Again, it was a really fun year of reads. I found some new favorites. I feel like I read from a lot of new authors, and I feel like I overall had a really good time. But I definitely have slacked a lot more on writing reviews for GoodReads and StoryGraph, just because I talk so much about the books that I read here on my channel that I definitely need to start linking my vlogs to them, I guess, is what I need to do. I'm still scrolling. My phone is being a little glitchy, so I apologize for the screen recording if it's kind of like jumping around. And then it says my last review. I did make a review for this. I don't really know why, but I did make one for Graveyard Shift. And then moving along to StoryGraph and the graphs that I have. So let's look at my overall moods for 2024. I do kind of wish I had a side-by-side from last year. You can definitely check out my last year video. I was watching it earlier and I noticed some differences, but there's some that like I didn't like put next to each other, and this was one of them. I do believe that these three top moods were very relevant in my 2023 reading wrap-up too, though. Coming in at number 1 is Dark with 134. Are we shocked? Then we have Tense at 94. Then we have Mysterious at 87. Emotional at 27. Adventurous, which I still love that I have that little Sagittarius spark there, at 26. I feel like that's less than last year. 13 Funny. 10 Reflective. That's a new one for me. 7 Sad. And these other ones are getting really little to see. So my last ones are Informative, Hopeful, Lighthearted, and Challenging. Moving along to my pace. So 57% of my books were at a medium pace, according to readers. 31% was fast pace, and 12% was slow pace. I actually love that on the StoryGraph app you can click and see like which ones other people say are pretty slow, and the ones that I'm seeing on here, I agree. Pace as far as my average time, which I do slack a lot on updating my books, but I do try to be like as transparent and true to when I start a book to when I finish it, logging. I'm so good at like journaling and like writing down when I'm reading. I'm just really bad at logging it for some reason on apps, and usually at the end of the month I go through and log all the books that I forgot, and just put the days that I have journaled. So it says the average time it took me to finish a book was 3 days, which I feel like is, especially here lately, I feel like it's taking me like 10 plus days to finish a book because I am mood reading and I'm starting like 10 plus books all at one time, and it's taking me forever to finish one book because of that. So for my page numbers, although 54% was less than 300 or 300 and less, 41% was 300 to 500 pages, and 5% was 500 plus pages. So I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, I read a lot of short stories from Edgar Allan Poe. I read a lot of novellas this year, and I just had a whole lot of fun with them. I feel like I'm on such a anthology kick right now that I feel like my page numbers are gonna go up this coming year. You know, this isn't a huge win because I'm pretty sure I wanted to read more nonfiction this year. I don't know if I actually made it a goal for myself or not, we'll see. But what I will say is that my nonfiction went up 2% because last year it was 1%. It is at 3% now, and then 98% was fiction. There is no surprise when it comes to my most read authors for this past year, because obviously Edgar Allan Poe like skyrocketed to first because I read so many short stories. I read 30 short stories or poems. Actually, yeah, short stories, because I don't really put in when I do the poems. I'm just gonna do that at the end. Like whenever I complete all of his work, I'm going to put in one of the collections as like my finishing book, and that will kind of count for like all the poems. So yeah, this past year I read 30 of his short stories, and you would think at this point I would be done, but I'm not. I read, next up, no surprise, Stephen King is always my top author every year. I read 13 books from him this past year. Next up is Stephen Graham Jones at 6. I read 6 of his books this past year. I definitely fell down my Stephen Graham Jones rabbit hole, and I was very happy about that. Next up is Richard Bachman, which is also Stephen King. I think that is because I read the Bachman books, and there's 4 of them, so that is probably why. Then we have Paul Tremblay, V.E. Schwab, ones that are repeated from last year, as in 2023. They've been favorites of mine. Katrina Ward, which was a new one for me, but I read 3 of hers this past year. And then I did read some R.L. Stine around Halloween. I think on Halloween, I read like 2 or 3 of his for the readathon I was doing at the time. And then we have Taylor Adams. I read a couple of his thrillers, and I read a couple from T. Kingfisher. I actually did a reread, and then I read the second in a series of theirs. A lot of really good authors there, and I'm actually surprised to not see more numbers here, but at the same time, looking back at my year, I feel like that's probably what I needed to make a graph of, because I feel like I read so many new authors that would have been really cool to look back on, and maybe Allie next year will watch this and make that happen, but more than likely, I'm probably going to skim through it because I don't like rewatching my videos. So we'll see. Now we've reached the point of the video where we talk book clubs and how terribly bad I failed at book clubs this year. And I'm almost positive that is one of my goals for 2024, or was one of my goals, and I failed, you guys. I was definitely a mood reader or like planning vlog reader, and not necessarily like honing in on like my goals or book clubs that I was participating in. And I feel like I missed like every book club live. I really did not participate this year, but looking at my graphs, you guys will see that I did at least circle back or read some of the books around those times. I just did not complete a single book club, and once again, it's sad, but I also did not make the book club video I was going to, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Ended up just not working out at the time, and I was going to circle back to it, but now I've really have figured out which book clubs have worked for me, which ones I would see myself continuing, even after having a year where I didn't stick strictly to my book clubs, and that is toning it down and not having so many. And that's worked out for me a lot better. With that being said, there has been some new ones that have popped up, and I'm like, I want to do it, but I'm also like, I need to chill. So without further ado, here's my book club stats as far as like each book club that I participated in this past year, and if the books are like completely opaque, then I read them at some point in my year. If they are kind of shadowed or like blurred out a little bit transparent or see-through, I did not read them. So my first one is Books and Lala, Kayla, her Literally Dead book club, which I adore. I absolutely love this book club so much. And I did not do great this year. I did read the February anthology from Jordan Peele. And then I slacked off until July's pick, which was Riley Sager's newest, Middle of the Night. And then we have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones that I did get to. And then she did something a little bit different for October. It was 3 novellas. And you guys know, it was my year of novellas, I feel like. So I did get to 2 of them. One of them I had read previously or like 2023 or something like that. So I went ahead and just checked it off because it was so fresh in my mind that I was like, I don't need to reread it. But the 2 that I did read was The Night Guest and Graveyard Shift for that. And moving on. I will say, because I'm going to take a quick detour here before I jump into my next book club, because the buzzword, Kayla's buzzword, which this year she has a buzzword and a cover challenge. I'm going to be doing both of them, hopefully. But I feel like I did a really good job of this buzzword, but sadly, I am missing one, and I've went through all my books multiple times. I did not read a single book that has the word every. That's the only one that I've missed, is a single book that says every. If I would have read that, I would have cleared my entire buzzword. Ugh, I'm so mad at myself for that one. But these are really fun challenges to just circle back to. I like to have them in my journal to look at each month when I go back through and tally up stuff in my journal. And they're just little fun challenges to spice up your reading, or maybe if you get in a rut and you don't know what to read next, you can look and see what you need to check off your buzzword. Now, it is supposed to be monthly. You can see January, February, March, and each one of them has a theme and you're supposed to hit it in that month. I usually don't do that because I am somebody who is forgetful and I procrastinate, and I just kind of have to circle back to this challenge and be like, what is still missing? But the goal is to complete it at the end of the year, and I have not the last 2 years. Moving along book club wise, we have the Book Troop. This is Gabby Reads Book Club, another one that I absolutely love, and I failed pretty miserably at this one as well. I just read her May pick, Diavola, at the end of the year. I, of course, was able to check off Middle of the Night, I Was a Teenage Slasher, because I read both of those, and it was just so perfect that it was a pick for both of those book clubs, so I got to do it for both. I did get to Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman, and We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clearer? I don't know how you say his last name still. Next up is the Midnight Society Book Club. This is hosted by Elizabeth from Reading Briarly, and I have read, I guess, a few of hers as well. Again, you guys, I said it, I failed my book clubs this past year, but I have read Monstrilio. It was my favorite book of 2023. February, My Husband, I have read that. I read it this year, wasn't a fan. Then I kind of fell off again. I did get to The Vegetarian this year. I read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay twice this year. I read Stepford Wives and absolutely loved that. And I want to read more from Ira Levin. And I'm actually about to read Big Swiss. The last book club that I participated in this year is a quarterly book club. This one's amazing as well. It is hosted by Sarah, Voided Lux on Instagram, and this is In the Void. And it is a virtual meeting book club. So every 3 months we read the book club pick, and then we meet virtually over Zoom to discuss, and also occasionally the author will pop on as well. So that was really cool. It was an amazing experience being able to hear, feeling like I'm in person, but really it's virtual, but sitting there, listen to Paul Tremblay talk about one of my favorite books of the year. I had such a good time with that. And the first quarter was The Ruins. This is by Scott Smith. I did not read this because I have already read this book and it wasn't really a favorite of mine. So I was just going to tune into the live, and unfortunately, or the meeting, unfortunately I was sick. So I missed that. I also missed quarter 2, which was The Weight of Blood, although I did read it because I read it for my Carrie video, but I don't remember why I missed that one. I don't know if I was sick or if we had something going on, but it just didn't happen. And then My Darling Dreadful Thing from Joanna Van Veen was quarter 3, and I read it and participated in that one. And then quarter 4 was Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, where Paul Tremblay jumped on as well, and it was a really great Zoom and a good time. I love this book club. It has become a favorite of mine, and it's just so nice to meet people through a virtual book club that I can feel more and more comfortable with, and oh my gosh, these people might actually get me. Now I'm going to jump into my read-alongs, which I think there's only one, and series that I had told myself I wanted to at least continue, if not finish. And we're gonna see how good I did this past year. So the read along I did was A Darker Shade of Magic, because The Fragile Threads of Power, I believe is the title, from V.E. Schwab came out this past year, and because of that, V.E. Schwab on her channel did a read-along where she would go through, she would read parts, but really it was just her breaking down the book. So the goal was you read the book and then come to the video, and she breaks down each scene and like maybe a thought process or like a funny behind the scene moment and stuff like that. I absolutely adored it. And it was my first time reading through the whole series, so it was just so special. I had only read the first book, so being able to finish the series and then be able to jump into her newest with that was just so special. And I did. I completed it. I finished A Gathering of Shadows, A Conjuring of Light, and I even got to her newest, The Fragile Threads of Power. So really excited about that. But you guys, I failed. This past year was supposed to be my Dark Tower expanded series, and I failed. But I'm putting it over into this year. I feel reawakened and recharged to now tackle it and hopefully have like quarterly goals with this. But I did check off a couple. I did get to the second in the Dark Tower series, The Drawing of the Three. Gave it 4 stars. I also got to The Eyes of the Dragon just this month. So again, I'm coming back. You know, The Stand just really put me in a rut for a while. It's just such a massive book, but I can do it this year. And I think having the anthology, The End of the World as We Know It, coming out later this year, which is going to be a collection of other authors on their take of The Stand, is going to really motivate me to do so. Now, I have not looked at these. I have added a couple series that I started this year that I will continue. I actually started more series than what are here, but these are the series that I see myself continuing or finishing out. The other ones are just, didn't make the cut because I just don't see myself reading them. Maybe I will, but I didn't feel the need to add them right now. But the ones that I added last year, I'm gonna be surprised with because I haven't really looked at them and I wanted to go through them with you guys. So first up, we have the Practical Magic series, which I am still working on, and I just adore it so much. I don't know if it's just my mindset being like, I don't want it to end, that it's just holding me back, but I have been rereading Practical Magic since November. So I really need to get my butt in gear with that one. And then get to the 4th one in the series. I have not read any more from the James Patterson, Alex Cross series. It's just such a daunting series. There's so many books, but I own a lot more of them now because my mom has been giving me a bunch of her James Patterson, so I need to get to them. I also have not finished out The Hunger Games still. This year, I will finish Mockingjay, at least. Oh, I did read the next Karen Slaughter Grant County series, Indelible. I am continuing that series more so because I'm excited to get to the Will Trent series, but I think I only have like 2 more left of the Grant County series. I unfortunately have paused my read-through of Series of Unfortunate Events. I think I might just get back into it by myself solo. My son just kind of wanted a break from them. He's not big on reading, which I understand, and he likes smaller books that have more pictures or like comic book style, so I understand that. So I've kind of paused it because I didn't know if he would want to pick it back up with me or not, but I think this past year we just read, at the very beginning of the year, we finished The Miserable Mill, and we've kind of just held off since then. The next Fourth Wing book has not come out. It comes out this month, so that will continue on into this next year, maybe. I also did not fit V.E. Schwab's, I don't know what that one's called. Is it, I can't think of, Victorious? Is that what it's called? No, I feel like that's wrong, but Vicious and Vengeful, I did not get to that series, although I think she's writing the next one, so maybe this will be the year, or maybe I'll wait closer to time for that book. I have read the first one, I just did not get to the second one, but I kind of want to reread the first one. Ooh. Then we have ACOTAR. I did in fact read the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, and since then it's been a softie enough. My friends are not pressuring me to read it. If anything, they kind of want me to move over to the Throne of Glass series, so I may try that. I just don't know if this is gonna be one that I circle back to. It didn't do a whole lot for me. Oh, I did finish out, I don't know what the series is called either, but it's the Divine Rivals Ruthless Vows. I did finish that out, and that was just a duology. The next one I also finished out, look at me. This one is the Stephen Graham Jones Angel of Indian Lake trilogy. I not only finished Fear the Reaper and The Angel of Indian Lake, the second and third book, but I also did a reread this past year of My Heart is a Chainsaw. I have not finished out my reread of Twilight. I'm just needing to finish Breaking Dawn at this point, but I did not do that this past year. Okay, then we have the expanded, or the Dark Tower series that I already talked about. I did not get any further with my Wayward children's series from Shauna McGuire. My thought process on that is I want to set aside a week or two to just binge the entire series start to finish from what there's out so far, because I believe a new one is coming out this month. So I feel like that's going to be my ultimate goal, to read through that series, because it's just, I feel like it's really hard to like scatter out, and then I'm just like, where did I leave off at? Like, I kind of want to refresh my memory, and since I've only read the first 3 and there's like 10 plus at this point, like I would rather just start from the beginning. Dagger to the Heart, Alex Stern, Ninth House and Hellbent. I've actually been talking to my friend about this because she got back into these and she's enjoying them this time. Still no word from Leigh Bardugo on when the third one's coming out, and I'm on that cliffhanger hanging, and I'm already to a point where I want to reread them, but I know it's just going to hurt all over again, and I need to wait till the third book is coming out. All right, then we have a Darker Shade of Magic series that I just mentioned, so we will skip ahead on that. Then T. Kingfisher, What Moves the Dead, and What Feast at Night. I did get to What Feast at Night this year, and I also did a reread of What Moves the Dead. So I did fit in a few rereads this year too, and that was really nice to circle back to books I really loved the year before. Finlay Donovan, oh my gosh. So I have not read the next one, and I believe there's another one coming out right around the corner. So I need to get to that, the Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice. I did read the little, in the end of November, the little like 3.5 or whatever, Veronica Ruse Breaks the Bank. I didn't like it. And then the 3 series that I added is Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar. I think Cesar. I read the first 2 this year, and I want to get the third one. I just haven't found that time to place it yet. I also read Candy Cane Kills Again, the second book from Brian McAuley. From that, I'm assuming it's the end and it's just a duology. So I finished those 2. I read the first one at the end of 2023. And then I also started Jurassic Park, so I'm hoping to get to the Lost World this year. Maybe some more. Like I said, I started other series, they just are not continuing as of now. Now we're going back to the graphs for my genres, because there are so many, you guys. Last year, I about making all of my templates and going through and pulling which ones are which genre, so I didn't do it this year. I'm so sorry, but I at least have my graphs showing my genres. Of course, horror is over 100 books. I read 104 horror books this year. I read 50 thrillers, which that's pretty impressive for me. 34 short stories, year of short stories. 33 classics, that's exciting. 27 mysteries, 19 fantasy, and then we have LGBTQIA+ at 14. I'm surprised there's not more there. I feel like I read a lot of like sapphic or some type of LGBTQIA. Literary, we have 13. Historical, 11. Contemporary, 11. romance 10, young adult 8, magical realism at 7, sci-fi 6. I only read 3 graphic novels, which is really sad. And I don't think there's any manga at all on here this year, and that's really sad. And then the rest, crime, history, dystopian, middle grade, biography, autobiography, memoir, poetry, children's, sociology, are all lower than that. So a very wide spread of genres, but you can definitely see where I stuck to this year, and that was being comfortable with horror. And now into ratings. Like I said, my average rating this year was a 4-star. Wild. And while I did not make my graphs for my genres, I did make my graphs for my star ratings. So starting with the 2 books that I didn't rate just because they're children books. I read 2 different Goosebumps. Well, one's a Goosebumps, one's a Fear Street for Halloween. So they're just kind of there. I didn't give them a rating. But moving into my 2-star ratings, these are the books that I just really did not enjoy my time with. And there's 9 of them, which is more than I would like. But we have a short story from Edgar Allan Poe. We have actually a couple from Edgar Allan Poe. A horror novella, a Shirley Jackson classic, a Christmas story, some other horror moments, a translated horror that I really wanted to love, Veronica Ruse Breaks the Bank, one I mentioned before, and even Eileen I just didn't really care for, and this is going to be probably the only time you see the books that I really didn't like this past year, so there you go. Moving along to my 3 stars, these are the books that I liked. They are not favorites. They're probably not books that I would ever want to pick up again and reread, but I enjoyed somewhat of my time with them. I believe I read 35 3 stars. If you want to take a minute to pause and go through all the books, you can, but I am going to be moving along to my 4 stars. These are the books that I loved. I had such a good time with. There is something about them that didn't make them a 5-star or an all-time favorite, but nevertheless, I really, really enjoyed my time with each and every one of these. There's aspects that I really, really liked about them, but sometimes it can be the littlest thing as an off-putting character that'll just be like, it's not an all-time favorite for me. Or it's I loved this book, but I may not reread it, or it deserves a high rating, but it's not my personal favorite. There's 53 of them. I had a lot of 4 stars this past year, which I'm not mad about. And then moving along to my 5 stars, these are now all-time favorites. I absolutely loved every single one of these. So many amazing stories from Stephen King classics, Stephen King rereads. We have Paul Tremblay rereads, Stephen Graham Jones, some new ones. I see Vampires of El Norte, which I friggin' loved, Slewfoot, a lot of Edgar Allan Poe's that really stuck out to me during my Edgar Allan Poe journey. V.E. Schwab, so many amazing ones here, and I just absolutely adore all of these books. Which my numbers here from GoodReads and Storygraph are not adding up with it saying my average rating was 4-star because I have 65-star reads right here. So something is off there, and I'm just now realizing this for some reason. Unless my calculations are wrong, but I feel like I had more 5 stars than anything. And I honestly feel like this has to do with the fact that I fit in quite a few rereads this year, or stuck to authors that I know really work for me, that I had an amazing reading year. Which is segueing me straight into my top 10 of the year. And last year I did like this build up. I'm like, this is my first one, my second one, my third one, up until my top read of the year. And while I do have a top read for you guys, the rest was really hard for me. So I have my favorite of the year to show you guys, and then my top 10 after that, because there was just too many good ones. I do have a reread on here, 2 rereads on here, a classic Stephen King on here, and some other just amazing new favorites. So without further ado, these are my top 10, I guess you could say extras, and My favorite of the year was Slewfoot. So although Slewfoot is my favorite read of 2024, the rest of these 10 are amazing. It was so hard picking. There is just something about this book that really did it to my soul, and I know that this is going to be a favorite for my entire life. It just is a very special book to me, but the rest of these are incredible, top favorite books, and I couldn't even rank them from least to favorite out of my top 10 because it was just too hard this year. But we have Black Sheep from Rachel Harrison, horror movie from Paul Tremblay, My Heart is a Chainsaw from Stephen Graham Jones, A Gathering of Shadows from V. Schwab, which is my favorite personally in the series so far, Pet Cemetery from Stephen King, The Eyes Are the Best Part from Monica Kim, Nestlings from Nat Cassidy, Bury Your Gaze from Chuck Tingle, We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kluwer, and Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. I love all of them. I cannot pick. It's just, it is what it is, but they're amazing books. And for the most part, they all fall under horror. I feel like besides A Gathering of Shadows, which I feel like that is, still has some like, you know, adventure and like cutthroat moments in. If you were just here to see my stats, I really appreciate you. But if you want to continue and keep watching to see if I completed my 2024 reading goals and my new reading goals for 2025, keep on watching. A little break because I was winded. So starting with my 2024 reading goals. First up is read 150 books. I did complete that. I read 10 over. I read 160 books. I definitely could have read a lot more. I just had like a 2-3 month period there where I was just in a complete slump and didn't read like anything. But I can check that off. Next up is keep up with book clubs, which we know I just failed terribly at. Complete the buzzword challenge. Was one off. Complete In the Void bingo, which I don't even want to talk about. I don't even have templates for it. I just did not keep up with it this year. There was a couple quarters where I was filling them in for myself, but I never really continued with it, unfortunately. I could probably go back through and see if I'm sure I got like a bingo with each of them, but I just, at some point I'll go through because I'm pretty sure they're in my journal. So I'll go through and fill them in and see if I got them with each quarter, but as of now, I don't have that for you guys. Continue the Dark Tower series, and I do remember telling myself continue, meaning you don't have to finish it this year, but I wanted a lot more progress than what I made, but I am happy to say I did at least continue it. I read at least one Detour book, and I also read the second in the series. Complete A Darker Shade of Magic series and read along. I did do that. Oh, 24 and 24. I don't even have my template for you guys. I did not complete this. I do know that. I will try to make a template to throw up for you guys because I just completely forgot. But once again, like my book clubs, when you see this template, you'll see all the books I chose for my 24 and 24, which I always make them new releases because I want to read new books as much as I read older books. And so all 24 of these were books coming out this year, and I just did, I don't even know what, like I went just wild with this, and I chose tons of different genres, tons of different books I barely knew anything about, and I also picked books to make it more of a challenge for myself, that I picked books that were like book 9 in a series, and I'm like, oh, now I gotta read that series this year, and it made me fail my 24 and 24. That sucks. We'll have my 25 and 2025 video coming very soon, and I'm going in a different direction with it. So I hope that that helps me complete that this year. But my last goal for 2024 was my TBR jar, which is exactly the same as I left it after I made this video last year. I completely failed at this one, and I'm kind of to a point of wanting to dump them all out. I did do 1 month where I pulled out like 10, and I, for the most part, think I read all of those, but there's so many still in here. The cool thing about it is I have book club books in here from, I guess, from 2023 that I didn't get to, so those would be kind of cool to revisit. I also have my 24 and 24 in here, so things like that I definitely want to keep in here because it will hold me accountable to circle back and finish a bunch of books that I wanted to get to. But there is some that I kind of want to veto out now that maybe I wouldn't be interested in doing anymore, as well as wanting to add to this, and I just don't have a whole lot of room to do so. But with that being said, because one of my goals for the new year is going to be trying to utilize this jar, I'm going to be adding all of the book club picks that I didn't get to into here. I think I'm just gonna have a different mindset now of wanting to veto some of them that just don't look as appealing to me. But yeah, past book club picks that I didn't get to, past 24 and 24 I didn't get to that are still appealing to me, I'm going to add to the jar, maybe mix it around a little bit, and hopefully do some more content with the TBR jar this year so that Allie from the beginning of 2024 feels better. Which leaves me with the last part of this video, which is my goals moving forward in 2025. And right at the top, just like I did last year, I have my reading goal. I want to read 200 books. I'm putting my mind to it this year because I was literally, like I mentioned, in a slump for like 3 months, and I want this to motivate me more to stay out of that, but also hopefully motivate me more to read what I want to read so that I'm not pressured to read things that are being recommended to me all the time, or yeah, like what's being thrown at me, although I do have plans for that so that I can utilize the rest of my time for my wants and what I want to read. The next one is also keep up with book clubs because it is a goal of mine. I feel like I've dwindled it down to the book clubs that really work for me and that I really like, and I want to participate and be there for the lives and all of those things. So I do kind of want to buckle down and keep up with them as much as I possibly can, and hopefully just see better progress than what I have the last 2 years, even if it's just missing 1 book or 2 books, that type of ordeal. I do want to complete the buzzword and covers. I got so close this year. And this year she has not only the buzzword, but she also has her like buzzword like covers. So there's 2 challenges for it, and I'm hoping to complete those. I also want to complete In the Void bingo and other challenges. It's a lot to get into right now, but there is a bingo board that will follow us all year instead of quarterly, and I think that will work a lot better for me, as well as her other challenges. She has like, this quarter is obsession challenge, so books that you're obsessed with, authors you're obsessed with, maybe the character in the book is obsessed with something and you read like 9 of them. And I'm gonna try to complete those as much as possible, but just have fun with them. And to keep myself able to read what I want and not feel pressured from the outside, I am doing a new challenge for myself, which is read 12 friend recommendations. I posted it on my stories on Instagram and got some recs from friends there, and then I just outright reached out to friends that I've met on the booktube world or bookstagram world that I trust with their book opinions, and I think we align really well, so they could all give me recommendations. And I'm hoping to do vlog centered videos for each of them throughout the year, maybe like 1 a month. I'm really looking forward to that. I am going to continue my 25 and 2025, and like I said, a video will be coming soon on it where I talk more about that because it's too much for this, but I'm gonna play smarter with it this year. 2 more challenges that I'm doing with friends from In the Void is 12 horror icons. Gina is doing this one, and each month is a horror icon. January is Stephen King, so I've already checked it off. But I want to continue this challenge and read from another horror icon each month. Mike, who also participates in the Void, has, I believe this is with Becca as well from who also participates, but they have come up with I can read hard things. And there's a bunch of hard books in this, and I'm kind of kicking myself for adding this to my goals, but I really want to see if I can do this. The first book is Crime and Punishment, so it's gonna be quite the time, but just a couple more challenges that I wanted to throw in there. Then I have read all Edgar Allan Poe because I am so close, and I wanted that to be my 2024 goal, and it just didn't happen. But I have 3 vlog ideas or concepts that I've been working on with his work, because my last Edgar Allan Poe video did pretty well. I wanted to bring it back and read some different categories of his work, and between that and then just fitting some of his reads and readalongs, readathons, that type of ordeal, I think I can pull it off this year. I want to not only continue, but I want to complete the expanded Dark Tower series. It's gonna be such an accomplishment at the end, but I'm reading 200 books this year and I'm reading what I want, so I feel like it's gonna be so doable, and I'm super excited, and I really hope that Allie this time next year can sit here and show you guys my completed Dark Tower series. And lastly, I just did a 2-part video series where I read the 20 GoodReads Best of Horror from 2024, and I'm wanting to continue that series. This one is an if, but I'm really hoping I can make it happen and do all of the 20 from 2023, and maybe 2022, 2021, and go back, because there's so many horror books that I've missed over the years that I want to revisit. I probably will just stick to the horror genre, but I'm really excited for that video series as well. And I think more than anything, I just really want to have fun with my reading this year. I want to read what I want to read, and I just want to make it fun for me, because I know I can hit the goals like reading 200 books and keeping up with things as much as possible when I'm staying in my comfort zone, my comfort genre. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I'm enjoying it, and I don't feel the need to have to read all the other genres to fill a void anymore, or to fill that FOMO anymore. That is my stats for 2024 and my goals looking forward into 2025. Like I said, my 25 and 2025 video is coming very soon, as well as other videos that I've been working on for the beginning of this year. I really appreciate you guys who stuck through and watched this super long video, and let me know any stats of yours from your reading year, how many books you read, or what was your favorite book, or maybe even a goal that you have for this year. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video.
Sorry about that text you got, I didn't ever mean to send it. So you got me in my feelings, I so fuck autocorrecting.